Hello and welcome back to part 3 of this Scriptcase video. My name is Jeremy Oates and I'm your host today. Today we are covering a bus ticketing system created by Sergio over in our Spanish department, and so far what we have done in the previous videos is imported the project, imported the database, added the data dictionary, added application languages. So we have changed the original project into a multi-language project, and we have applied some changes to the forms as well as the initial grids here within the admin folder. So now over the next videos I won't be making all of the changes I've made here, okay, because really just repeating the same thing over and over again, I don't think it really helps anyone. So that if you need to see how to do some of those changes, you can revert back to that individual video and you'll see it there a few times repeated, but not in this one. Okay, so let's continue. We have then next up our buses folder, and if you remember in the first video when we had done our import, we had made a change to the buses database table. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm opening up both of the forms and the grids that are available within that one folder. And for the form buses, first of all, I need to come here and I need to synchronize the table so that the updated field is applied. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run the form buses, we will see that here we have the bus name, the brand, the license plate, as well as the candidate silas, which off the top of my head I still don't remember what that was, but I do have this translated correctly in the application. Okay, and we have activated, yes and no. Okay, so we have some elements here to change for the multi-languages, and what I'm going to do first of all is let's go to the toolbar, and here I'm going to add the languages option to the toolbar. So I'm just placing that there. And if I go ahead and run the application now, I can now come up here and change the language from English to German to Spanish. And we can review each of the language keys that we have applied. Of course, we haven't updated all of them here in the project that you download. They will be all translated, okay? So we can see here basically, first of all, that we have Activo is C, no, German, C, no, and Spanish, C, no. Okay, so here we have yes, no. So my browser is actually just translated that. Okay, so we can actually then come back here to the English, and if we then come back into Scriptcase and view here the fields, we can view here the Activo field, which is then for active, and then we need to change this here then also to multi-language. So C, no, and I think that no, maybe that's changed, but then we want that to be yes and no. So we want to go ahead and open then first of all the application languages, and what I'm going to do here is create a new folder, and this one I'm going to call this app select. Okay, so all my select fields are going to be within this one language folder, and here I can then have all of the keys for that. So I will start off with lang underscore, so we know it's a language variable. Okay, lang underscore, and then here I'll say select and yes. Okay, and then I'll name another one, lang underscore select, and this time no, and then I'll say no for the Spanish, C that was, and then we have here yes and no, and then in German we have ja and nein. Okay, so now if I update that, and now within my form buses, I will now come here back to the active field. So I'm viewing here the active field, and if I scroll in a little bit so you can see a bit better, we have here then the label and the value. So I'm just going to change the label, and I'm going to add the curly brackets, lang underscore select, and yes. Okay, and then I will update that and apply the same to the label for the no, lang underscore select and no, and then close with curly brackets and update. Now when I run the buses form again, reset, we have then here yes, no, and if I now change to German, ja, nein, Spanish, C, no. Okay, Of course, my browser still goes and translates the Spanish there, but not the German. Okay, I think I actually spelled "ja" wrong without the H. It's been so long, which is really bad. Okay, so of course, if you remember in the previous video, we had made other changes to the form, and we had expanded it so it fit all the way along, as well as made some other modifications. So within the form that we have here, if we then go ahead and update that, we have then the yes, no. We can then change then the status of the bus, and we have then next form is then the bus brands. So let's run this one quickly. And here we just have the brand name itself. So on this one, basically, we could just change this here to, change the form orientation. And here, if I zoom a bit more, we can change that to multiple records, run that again. And again, we could go through the settings and make it full width and apply the other changes we have within the other applications. Okay, so we have next up the grid for buses. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run it as it is now. And we can see here that we have the C for yes, and we will have no for no. Okay, now this will always be the case because it's in the database, and we don't really want to make changes there. So what we can do is we can actually change this field. So what we can do is create a new field, and I'm going to create a new field, and I'm going to call it active, and create. Okay, and then invent on record. I can then add a new record here, and I'll say if, so we need to open close brackets, and then we'll go var equals C, and then we need to, because I need to define that first, so we'll do that in a moment, open and close again, and then here we want to, first of all, oh hey, yes, it works. And then I will just go add a variable in here. So for the field, which is then active. So active and close that equals, and what I'm going to do then is apply a font awesome icon here. Okay, so we can then go into font awesome icons, for instance. We can then search here for an icon. So we say for yes, and we'll go free. And then let's just pick here the thumbs up. In fact, there's no, yeah, let's just go with the thumbs up. And we can copy that. I can come here and I'm going to paste that straight in there. Now I do need to, okay, I want to actually change the color of this as well. So let me come here and add a span. And style, and we go color green. Okay, and we can close that, and then we span this also. Okay, now, okay, so that's our if I yes, and now we need to add an else statement, else, and then we want to say no. So else, we're going to say not valid. No. Okay, and then we want again active. So we're again assigning the field variable here, if active. And then we're going to say if it's no, then with active, we will then come here again and go no, search for no, and hopefully we get a thumbs down. No, no thumb. So let's go thumb, and then we go thumbs down. I'll copy that, and I'll paste that in here. Let's first add the span, so style, and here we want to add the color, say red. Okay, so now we have here our span. We can add then our font awesome icon and close that span. Okay, so if I just exit those like so we can see that a little clearer, and then just tab those in. Okay, so now we have our yes or no. We still need to add our main variable here, so I'm going to go up a little, and then what I'm going to say now is our variable equals, and that is going to be Activo. Okay, so this var here equals Activo here. So now if I go run, we have now a green thumbs up. Okay, so now if I come here to form buses, go run, and we change the status of one of these buses to no, and save. Okay, and then we can run our grid again, just make sure this is good. And now we have a yes and no. So we have a thumbs up and thumbs down for the active. And just with that, we remove the yes, no, which we have here in Spanish, and it automatically becomes a little more universal and multi-language. So this is why I've applied to each of the options within the project, where we have a yes, no, 0, 1 response. And then for the datas like the bus name and so on, if we really want to apply multiple languages to that, then we need to add a new field to the table, and we can then change our selects and apply accordingly. Okay, so that's the easiest way to that, and apply the multi-language or usability for multi-purposes within the application. And we still need to hide here now this field. So if you come up here to edit fields, we have two ways of moving the field. One way is to drag it up and down here, okay? And another way is if I select here the fields positioning, okay, fields positioning, I can also remove the field from view just by left and placing it here on the left side, or if I want it to display it, I can move it here to the right side. I can also adjust it up and down by selecting it and using here the up and down arrows. So I will then save that and then run the application. So now we have no more Activo, but our active is now displayed, and automatically that is then more multi-language than previous. Okay, so we have then also the bus brands grid. Now again here, there would be nothing special to apply here. It's just a list of names. So I have just applied the basic styling within this application. Okay, so the next important aspect of the project which we have imported, which I then made changes to, was then the theme. Okay, so what we're going to do now is apply that to the project. Okay, so what we need to do is then come here to project, and we can come then here to properties. And then here within the project properties, where we added previously the extra languages, we can also add our themes. So here I have removed all of the themes, and then I've come here on the right-hand side, or left-hand side, sorry, and selected the SC9 Midnight, and place that as the only theme and set it as default for the project. Now I will save that. Of course, you can come in here and select any other theme and apply it, and then the entire theme for the entire project is then customized according to your own needs. Okay, so now we need to then apply that to our forms. Okay, so at the moment these all have the black form, so the quickest way to do that is come here to application and express edit. Now we did use this previously, and this time we are going to go ahead and make a few extra changes. So we have here first of all the option to change here the theme. We changed previously the language, connection, and connection for fields. So this time we're only going to change the theme. We will enable here, if I can find it, the Sweet Alert and Sweet Alert Positioner with Toast. Okay, so we're going to add those into the project if they're not already there. And we can then also make other modifications here if we want to. For instance, the table width, I will apply. The table unit, I will also apply. So this is going to then apply the 100% to all of the applications in one go, instead of actually having to change each individual application. Okay, so we can also apply here a separate template if we wanted to, which I haven't done for this project. I will possibly look at that for the next project. Okay, so we have here first of all at the top, Sweet Alert. I will say yes, enable, and place it at the top right. Okay, the theme for all will be now the SC9 Midnight, and the table unit will be %, and then 100%. Okay, and then we will go apply. Now Scriptcase will apply that now to all applications. So now if I go ahead and check out, for instance here, the buses, and we had here the bus brands, which we had made no changes to. Now we have it in black, and it is 100%. So the only change here that I would then further apply is then here the top. Okay. So we have now the theme applied to our entire project. We would then need to, of course, come and generate all of our source code so that all of the applications are updated with the new styling. Okay, so the next thing up that we need to apply is then also the menu. So we need to change the language keys within the menu, as they are not added with the data dictionary. Okay, so the data dictionary includes the language keys for all of the applications other than blank, control, and basic applications that have no access to the database. So for instance here, our app login, which we'll come to shortly, that also needs some modifications for the language keys. But first let's attack the menu. Okay, so within the menu, I'm not going to go ahead and make all the language adjustments. So I keep moving the screen here. Okay, so I'm not going to make all the language changes. So basically I come into the text field here. I copied the language key that we have here. So the original text, configuration general. And then I visited DeepL for the translation, pasted it in here, and then come here and got the new translation. Okay, so we have that applied for each of these. Now, the way I also done that is, of course, I needed to create new language keys. So I come into the application languages and I create here a new folder and I call it, say, app menu, and then add the folder. And then here I can then create the new language keys. So here first of all I have the English version, and if I copy here the Spanish version, I have then the two translations straight away. And then for the German version, I come here, and what I did is I used the English version for the German translation, okay, because it tends to give a better translation. So I'll come here, general settings, and then change here the language to German. I then have the correct German translation. Okay, so this is what I've done throughout the entire project, and there we have now the correct translation for this menu item. Okay, so I now need to create my new language variable. So I'm going to call this lang menu and general config. Let's call it like so. Okay, so I'll copy that and update the messages, and our new language key is added. Now, if you add too many characters in here, there is a character limitation for the index, so do be aware of that. You can't really go too crazy with the name lengths that we apply here. So within the name, app menu here, I can then come in here and now I can add my language key, run the menu, and we will see we have general settings and everything else is still in Spanish, other than here the security, which is then the default security applications generated by Scriptcase. And if we check here in the menu, we'll see that they all use language variables by default. Okay, so this is always the case, no matter how you apply your security using here the security module, it will always apply the multiple language keys for you. Okay, and then you can update them also here within the language application languages. Okay, so basically I've applied this again for all of these. So let's continue and add a few more. So I have here país. So I'll come here and copy this. Come to DeepL, paste that there. Spanish into, let's have German first. And then I'll come again to the menu here. Copy. Paste that in there, and then also copy again the Spanish version and paste that in there, and then for the English is countries. Okay, so we then apply here again the language key lang menu countries. Okay, and I'll just copy that ready and update the messages, and again return to the menu and apply the new language key. And then we can run the menu again, and we can see now within the menu, if I come into general settings, we have countries, and again the rest in Spanish. Okay, so basically throughout the project I went ahead and updated all of these, so I'm just going to leave you to do that yourself, and of course you come back and continue with the video once you've done that, or of course you can continue watching. So the next part of this is within the settings. we have also the option to apply here the language. So I applied it here within the menu, and if I go run again, we'll see now at the top here, we now have the option to change the language for the entire project. Okay, and we see that the menu changes automatically depending on the language. All of the keys would then also change depending, like you see here, the Spanish changes, and the security here changes to the various languages with the original language keys, as well as the ones that we have just updated. Okay, so this is the alternative to adding the language option to each individual application. Okay, so it is of course the best and easiest method so that your user can change the language as he's actually using the project. So now within the menu, you will find, of course, when you add this language bar, that you have this top here with this white, and it's pretty horrible, and there aren't really very many settings to actually figure out I haven't figured out which setting does this yet, so it's been a little frustrating on that side, but then it's very easy to simply apply a little bit of styling. So if I come here into the events, I can just open up my application again, and I can use my browser and then view or inspect the element. And then from that, I can see here the ID is div lang theme. So if I come back in here, I can then apply my styling. So if I open and close, first of all, my PHP brackets, and then I can then come here, I can then style and close that as well. And then above that, we can say then hash, and it was div underscore lang underscore theme, and then we want to apply, say, a background color, and we want to make that important also. So that's hash 303707404 and A, and then we want to make it important so that it matches also here the main application. And now if I apply that, I'll actually close this first, save that, and then run. We then have the top bar with the same color as the rest of the application. Okay, so that's our menu on its way. So if you've actually gone ahead and applied each of the menu items, then you'll be ready then for the next step, which is then to update the login page. Okay, so within the login page, if we open it, first of all, we come here to security, and then we have here app login. If I go ahead and open it, and then we can see here we're using the user HTML and an external template. Okay, so if I preview this, we can see then that this is the login page that we have, and of course if I run it, we can see that the login page is then live. So I go app login, we have the standard Spanish login page created by Sergio, and we want to now change or update this so that we have multiple languages in here, and these language keys also change, and then our users from different countries can also log in. Okay, so there are a few things that we need to apply here, and the first thing we want to do then here is first of all apply changes to the HTML template. So if I come up here to tools and external libraries, I can then scroll down and then click here edit by the project external library that's been attached, which is what also includes now the login theme. So by opening that, I can then access the login folder, and I have then here the login 02. So if I open that up, you can see here that this is the correct page. Bienvenidos, empresa de transporte. So if I see here empresa de transporte, I can see that here. So this is the correct page, and basically you want to now start applying some changes to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is upload, first of all, the images. So I have here the icons used from the original project. I'm going to drag and drop them here. You see Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom. So it should be Spanish, of course, but I've added Brazil, so I'm sorry about that. That's how it is. And of course, now if I enter now the login page, I can then go ahead and start making changes here to this. So I will need to open up the application languages again also. so that I can create the language keys for here. So here I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it app login, and add folder. And then here I can start then creating my new language keys. So I'll call, say, lang underscore sc underscore system description, or system descript, like so. Okay, and then we can have here the bienvenidos, and then here we can have welcome to the transport ticketing system, and basically you have that there also in German. Okay, so we then also need to have an extra key, which would then be the sign in. So we see here on the page we have 1, 2, and then some extra variables here. Now these, remember, are from the security, so we will see in a moment if we actually need to change those. I don't think we will. We just need to add these, and then we can also add the flags and so on. So I'm just going to call this lang underscore sign in, and then we can say here login, for instance. Login with your password, for instance. So we can put any kind of text there. Okay, do note that the field, or the character limitation for these fields, is much greater than that of the forms. So it is definitely worthwhile actually using language keys throughout your project, regardless of having it set as a multi-language. Okay, so we have here, first of all, this one here, and we have here the next one that we created. So if I come back here, I can copy here the language key, return back to my library, and up the top here, let's just replace that, open close brackets, remember, and then I can paste that in there. And then again, for the lang sign in, we just copy that key and return here to the external library, not the login page itself. And then here we replace this, again, open close brackets, and add our language key there. Okay, so you see here we will need to change these labels also, so we can actually remove those. I don't think they're really needed. And so let's actually come label for name, and what we're going to do is I'm going to change this to so sc underscore field label, sorry, field underscore label, spell label correctly, label, and then underscore login lowercase. Okay, and then I need to close that also. Okay, label, yeah, that's correct. Okay, now we have for this one here, we're going to do the same again. So if I open again, and I'm going to close straight away as well, just so we avoid the rest of the text going grey there. So sc underscore field underscore label underscore pswd. Okay, so I'm just going to place that in there, and that then we'll have to replace the username passwords in those fields, as we no need. We have here the links also with the multi-languages already. Okay, so we're nearly ready to save. Now the only thing left to add now is the icons. So here below the lang sign in, here it is here. So if I come a little lower than that, enter after the h2, and here I'm going to add a div class equals, and then of course we can change this, then flags lang, and then close our div. Okay, and then above that then we can then add our a class equals, and that will be flags. Okay, and then we add a href equals, and then we want double dot score app underscore login. It's lowercase login. It's actually uppercase here, sorry. App underscore login / index dot php, and then we will add a question mark, and we go lang equals yen. Okay, now if I then go ahead and close that, I can then also add the image. So let's go image source equals, and now the image we have then within the project. So that is open close curly brackets sc underscore lib underscore project. Just make sure I spell it correctly. Underscore project, and then it's buses. That's what we called the project. Need to close that first. Buses, and then / login / United underscore Kingdom underscore Great Britain .png was okay. And I have here the image 2 M's look. Okay, and then we close that up again, and then we close our A reference. Okay, so now I probably spelled it incorrectly, so I'm just going to go ahead and just copy the entire code for all 3 images, but you get basicality of it. So we'll paste that there, and then we now have all 3 icons. You can see we have now the flags for the app login, going to the index, and then we have here the icons which we have within our application. So if I then save that, and we can then confirm that in a moment if I close. Okay, we don't have to do anything else here now. I can then go back to my app login, and I can then go ahead and run the application. And then let's see if we have the fields and paths all correct. Okay, so we have there already the paths correct. Now notice that I do have a capital L for this application. So it is here capital L, and here within the library, just to go back there again, here within the library, it is lowercase. Okay, so that may cause a path issue later, just as an FYI. So you may need to update this to a capital L within the original project, okay, that you download. So I'll save that, and then I can actually go ahead and close it again. I can come back to my app login, run, and I now have then in multiple languages. So I now have in English, okay, and of course I can select Spanish or Brazilian and German, and then it should all change accordingly. Okay, so I see the main title change, but here the name tags and nothing else is changing it. So let's make sure like PT, like ES, like EN. Okay, so now within the events we still need to make some changes so that it all works. Okay, so now within the events here on the login page, we have the on application in it. Okay, so here we want to apply then our language switch, so that we can then switch and change between the languages here on the login page. Right now, these are really just images, and they're coming back here to the login page, but they are not really applying anything spectacular. Okay, so that will happen then shortly. Okay, so once we apply then the changes here, you will be then able to go ahead and finish up the login page. So what we want to do then here is I'm going to copy and paste it, and then you can actually just see how it goes on your side. So we are saying here the language equals here the substream from server accepting the language. Okay, so we're going 0,2 here, and then here we're performing a switch for this language here that we are receiving. Okay, so first of all, if the user is connecting with a browser that speaks Portuguese, Brazilian, Spanish or English, of course we want to change this here. It should be German, Spanish and English. Now again, within the main project I have them as Portuguese, Brazilian, Spanish and English, so you will want to update that also, and then you can actually change here the languages for yourself. And when the user now comes in with a browser with that specific language, the project will change to that language. And here we are then performing the switch within the page. So when a user makes one of these clicks on one of the images, it will then update the language accordingly. Okay, so we have here first of all case PT, ES, and then the default is English. So I'm going to change this here to ES, and then this one here to DE, and I'll do the same here, ES. In fact, I believe we can leave it as ES and then DE, and then the default is English. So if I save that, and now if I run and then log in again, and now when I click on here, we now have the variables changed. So we simply need to update the language variables within the backend, and then they will be displayed correctly. Okay. Right, so then the next option we need to change here within the project well, actually we don't need to change, but was actually quite important for this project, was here for the on validate. Now Sergio's gone ahead and he's changed here the select. Okay, so he's grouped the user table as well as the sec user groups table, and by default we just select here the user table. Okay, so he's gone ahead and combined the two, and then he's made some changes down here with the globals. So we have here two new globals, the group ID and the group description, which is then added within the project. Now below that you'll see here we also have here an if else statement, which Sergio has also added for the login. So if the user has a client ID, then we set the client ID in the back end. Okay, so if a client logs in, they will have only the client interface and client validation and so forth. Okay, so on validate success, there's no changes here for the project. It's only within these two sections. So on application init, where we apply here the switches, and then the on validate, which is where Sergio's made some changes. Okay, so now the login page is ready, and the final part of the puzzle is then really to check out the items that Sergio has added here. So first of all, we have then within the ticketing system, we also have some of these applications within here, the solicitados clients. Okay, so we have here the step 1, step 2, and then the reservation. Okay, so I'm actually just going to go through the client section. That is very similar to this one, because here we have actually the PayPal payment also. Okay, so if I go ahead and open up these applications we have here, we can see here that we have here the client reservation form, we have the confirmation for the client, and then we have the client confirmation details. So if I run here this first form, and if I enter a client ID, say client ID 1, I have then here the details of our project. Of course, some items are translated correctly and some not. You still need to apply the languages within the keys, but you see some of them are already there. Within the project you download again, they will all be available and correct. Okay, so here we can then go ahead and add a new reservation. Okay, and then a new reservation is added to our options, and then we can also go ahead and make a payment with PayPal. So I can select here then the rows that I want to pay for, pay with PayPal, and then it will go off to PayPal and make the payment. Now that's not going to succeed now for the simple fact that I do not have the payment set up correctly. Okay, because as I said before, I'm using a local server. So if we check out here the events that we have here, so for the client reservation, the on validate, we perform some validation here. So if we have here the total value equals the price times the tickets, okay? And then we have here an error message if that is not correct. Right. Now after insert, we then display the user the message saying the reservation has been made, and then we redirect the user here to the client PayPal. So if we see here with grid VW, which is not this one here, it's over here, so it's this one here. It then opens up this grid, and then within this grid is what then we were seeing there with the actions again. So if I go ID 1, so that's what we were seeing. So that's this application reviewing now here, the reservist client PayPal. Okay, and then from here we're able to make here the PayPal payment with this button. So if we have a quick look at that, we have here then the button, and Sergio has added it with a button. He's performed then the values. Okay, so he's basically just done plus the value here and applied the variables. Okay, and then this is then going to be applied then to the next application. So if we come here to on record, we can also see here that we have if bus is active, activo, inactive. So again here we can change to the font or some icons that we had done previously. And on application init, we are just collecting these values which are being sent from the previous applications. Okay, so this is where then the payment is then initiated. So if I come here then to the control and blank applications, and then here is then where you will make the PayPal changes to the application. So first of all here within the control, if I open up here the fields, or edit fields even, we can see here that we have the method of payment, the token, the reservations, the total payment, the hour, the type of payment, and what actually happened as a result of the payment. So again, these have all been translated with keys within the project that you will be downloading. So if you actually downloaded it already and are looking at it, then you will have the language keys here. Okay, so if we check out here the events, we can then see on the onload event, we have here then the PayPal transaction. Okay. So we will continue with this within the next video. So I hope to see you again in part 4 of the Scriptcase video, and we'll continue with all the items that Sergio has added within this project, finalize what we have applied here, and maybe make one final check of the final project that you will have or have downloaded already or will be downloading. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you again soon.